I really shouldn't love this scene, but I really do.
I did not teach her to woohoo cannibalism.
You're cheering for good storytelling or interesting storytelling. I get it.
Welcome to The Right Advice. I'm Randy.
And I'm Amber.
And I'm Lucy.
And today we're talking about episode 8 of The Last of Us on HBO Max. So, what'd you guys think?
I liked it quite a bit.
I really loved it.
Same here. Much better than the last episode, I thought. So, I was happy that there was some action. On a cold winter day in Silver Lake, Colorado, a compassionate preacher gives a sermon when a young girl interrupts him with her sobs. She asks when they will be able to bury her father, Alec, and the preacher says it's too cold to dig, so they will bury her father in the spring. After church, the preacher, David, talks to a man named James about food stores. At best, they have 2 weeks of meat remaining. Someone thought they saw a deer a couple nights ago, so David encourages James and tells him to get their guns so they can go hunting.
All right, I love the opening. So we have, is it David who's speaking?
Mm-hmm.
He's reciting verses out of the Bible, I believe. And what I loved about it is we get the snowy landscape, and what we're seeing on the screen seemed to fit so nicely with what he's talking about. Even though I'm pretty sure that what he's talking about, what we're seeing are completely different. So it's kind of misleading, right? That they do that, but nicely so. Sometimes it's good to be misled. And so, yeah, I really enjoyed it. It opens up immediately. I'm hooked, and I want to find out more. And then we do have that conversation with all of them in the town. And I'm like, oh, this will be interesting. We're going to have a community of faith. So I thought.
Yeah.
And that will be interesting to see them do a take on that. Because, frankly, I'm surprised that up to now we haven't seen that. So are we still in Wyoming? Okay, we're in the Wyoming, Colorado area. So there's a lot of survivalists who live there currently. There's a lot of people of faith. And I just think that those are communities that probably traditionally could be expected to live through an apocalypse like this. And what we're not seeing is any evidence of that. So I'm surprised. We see a communist commune, which is kind of surprising for that area, but okay. But no survivalist types, no people who naturally get along, would be compassionate. And I guess that's because what fun is a show where people are nice and they get along?
See, they were nice to the infected people, and then they died. So
I think you could be both intelligent and compassionate. All right. I am sure that you could do that. And we have not seen any communities or people that are like that. So it's par for the course.
Yeah, so when I was in high school and Deep Impact came out, remember that movie with Elijah Wood? Okay, so my teacher was really cool, and we were all doing very well in class. It was a really tough school. He said, ask your parents tomorrow if I can take all of you guys to go see Deep Impact in theaters. So we all called our parents and got permission to, or we went home and talked to our parents, got permission to go see that. We all loved it, and when we came out, the first thing the teacher was saying, because it was a small Catholic school, he said, you know what? The one thing they didn't cover in that movie is all the people who are religious. He's like, I'm sure if I saw that there was an asteroid heading for us, I'd be in church going, Hail Mary, Hail Mary, Hail Mary, just praying away until, the end of the world comes. So it was, this is an opportunity for them to explore what it would be like to do that. I will say, however, though, that I found it really predictable. Like, I knew that he was a bad guy. I knew that their faith was not strong and they had serious problems. The way that it was shot gave this away. The dialogue that he was using and the mannerisms that he had, even when he talked to his friend James, he wasn't asking about, have you lost faith or have they lost faith in me? And you could tell that James had to assure him, don't worry, they still have faith in you. Like, he figured this is the guy who would be worried that his flock has lost faith in him. But that wouldn't be a real shepherd's goal. It'd be to have faith in God. So to me, it was obvious this is a bad guy. And I figured he's corrupt, he's power hungry, and I was like, all the things that go along with a religious leader, the typical cliches of what would you see as being like the corrupt, power-hungry religious leader. So I was expecting all of it. But I like that, yeah, it did have the bleakness in there. So.
And in this scene, we are introduced to Troy Baker, who plays Joel. Yeah. He plays James in this. So.
Game Joel.
Game Joel. He plays Game Joel, not Show Joel, obviously. But yeah, he plays James. And I saw him in the background in one shot. I was like, that's my boy!
So, I don't know if it's the same guy, but I saw his little nodule on his ear. Like the actor of Troy Baker, he's got like a little right on the bottom part of the outside of the curl of his ear. I think I went to school with him, that actor. If he lived in Phoenix, I think I had 2 classes with him at Phoenix College in the early 2000s. So, okay. Troy Baker, if you're watching, I was that weird 16-year-old who was for some reason in college classes with all the adults. And I remember talking to him after school and going like, wow, he's got some interesting ears, kind of like an elf, but instead of them being pointy up here, they're pointy down here. And because I was watching him going, this guy, I feel like I've seen him in a movie before. I don't think I have. But then I thought maybe
I think he mostly does game acting. I think he's maybe had a few like show roles, but for the most part, I'm pretty sure he just does game stuff.
Okay, cool. Yeah, I tried to look up if he's lived in Phoenix. I couldn't see anything online. So I was like, I don't know, might be him, might be not. So Ellie checks Joel's wound. It's oozing and he is sweating with fever. She wets his lips with water, but he is unable to drink. After getting to the bottom of their rations, Ellie takes the rifle and goes out to hunt. Ellie succeeds in shooting a deer, but the deer limps away. David and James come across the dead deer and decide to take it before the hunter shows up. That's when Ellie catches the men off guard. Under her direction, they drop their guns and step away. David suggests that they trade. Ellie agrees to give them half the deer in exchange for medicine, with the condition that James fetches the medicine and returns alone while she holds David hostage. David agrees to the terms and tells James to go. Then he suggests that they bring the deer into a nearby house and make a fire while they wait for James to return.
I enjoyed the scene with Ellie and Joel. And really, for me, that's where this series is at. The scenes with those two, I enjoy. And whenever they kind of take a detour, I don't enjoy those as much for the most part. And I'm not saying that the actors that do the other parts aren't good or that the story is necessarily bad. But, you know, what can I say? A father and his daughter, I don't know, those stories just resonate with me. And I really enjoy it. So I do enjoy, and I'm watching Ellie, and she's taking care of Joel. And she can, you know that she can tell that he's fevered because we see it. He's sweating, and she's trying to put water on his lips, so which is appropriate. And she tears off some food for herself, and she savagely goes into that food. So we know she's starving, and then she leaves an equal amount for Joel, even though he's not eating. So this is great storytelling. They're not telling us things. They're showing us things. They're showing us how much Ellie loves Joel and how concerned she is and how hungry she is, how close to starvation they probably are. So all these things without telling us, we just see it. And to me, it's a beautiful scene, and I really enjoyed it.
Yeah, I thought that scene was really good too. No complaints. I thought, again, it's showing, like you said, the part of Ellie that's trying to take care of Joel. I think that what you were describing about how your interest usually is focused on Joel and Ellie and their story, and when it strays away from that, it becomes something, it's like a secondary interest to you. So you're going, oh, I wish we were stuck, back over there. I would say I feel exactly the same way, but if there's a side story that involves Ellie or Joel, like they are a primary character in the side story, I'm okay with that. Yeah. Usually, yeah, with the exception of the last episode. For instance, what we had with Kathleen and everything going on with her, I was expecting more to come from that. So when nothing did come from it, I really acquired a distaste for anything that's not solely focused on either Joel or Ellie or both of them together. So yeah, I like that this was about the two of them.
Yeah, really cute. Joel and Ellie stuff is my favorite. And also, I think just because, obviously, They have writers from the game on the show, so it's not like it's completely new cast or everything, but you don't get any of these side stories in the game. So the game is solely on Joel, and for during some of the winter section, half the winter section, this episode, you play as Ellie because they're separated. So pretty much the entire game, other than a little bit of the winter section, is played by Joel, and you're just with Joel and Ellie. So I feel like that's for obviously going to be the strongest part of this show is the scenes with those, because it's already there and it's already very well established and it's already so well loved.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah, and I think we have something in the comments from somebody talking about the flashback with Ellie and Riley, and saying that this was in the DLC, so it absolutely is, important to include in the show. And my response to that was, if it was in the DLC, it wasn't necessary to the game because they would have sold it as part of the game. Instead, it was an extra, it was add-on. So I don't know if that was clear in the comments, but I tried to explain it a couple of times and I don't think it was getting through. But I do like when everything that we are seeing is totally necessary to it. And so when we have this bit with Ellie going hunting, it's totally relevant to the story because, her coming back to save Joel is, to give him food and, to keep him warm. We need that to happen. He can't do it for himself. He can't even wake up. So I was really interested in everything that she was doing, all of her hunting, and then her talking to these two guys, who come to take the deer away from her, basically. And I was fully invested in what was going to happen with her. I will say she's very lucky she had a stupid deer who was deaf. But that sometimes happens, I guess. That's how it can be.
Mm-hmm. In this okay, so the game is basically split up into 4 sections, different seasons. You have summer, where you start the game, and that's up until where Henry and Sam. That's where Henry and Sam die. And then you get autumn, which is everything up to Joel getting injured, and then you get winter, which is this entire episode, and then you get spring, which is the ending. So my dad said that it felt like it wasn't paced very well, but that's how it's paced in the game.
Okay.
So my dad was saying it doesn't feel like they're going to be able to wrap it up by next episode.
Yeah.
That's because the game itself wasn't paced super well. The summer part was about half the game. So the game itself was paced that way. That's why it might feel like they aren't finishing up in time. But yeah, that's...
Do you think that they're going to be able to finish up in the last episode?
Oh, for sure.
Better be a long episode. I'm expecting an hour and a half.
There's honestly not a whole lot left of the story.
Okay.
There's a little bit more, in the game at least, there's a little bit more exploring in the city, and then you finally meet fireflies.
Oh, okay. Nice.
And you get a little bit of fireflies. I'm not saying nothing. Big finale.
Okay.
But you don't get a whole lot more story.
Okay. David offers to let Ellie join his group and tells her his group chose him to be their leader. He says everything happens for a reason and he can prove it. One of his men, the father of a little girl, died recently. He was killed while looking for food with 3 others when he was attacked by a crazy man who was also with a little girl. Too late, Ellie realizes he is referring to her and Joel. James has come up behind her, pistol aimed. David orders James to lower the gun and give Ellie the medicine. Ellie takes it and runs away, leaving the deer. Ellie hurries down to Joel and administers an injection of penicillin right into the area of the wound. She then lays beside him, her head on his shoulder.
I love the scene where Ellie confronts the people of faith, right? So they've got it's David and James, and she's got the drop on them, and all the stuff that she does there, very careful and calculated, reminds me so much of Joel. So you can tell that she has learned well from Joel. It's like back away, she moves up, she unloads the guns. She deals, is like, no, your buddy can go get the medicine and bring it back. You'll stay with me, and you're going to drag this deer carcass into the house where we're going to wait because I don't want anyone stealing. Okay, she doesn't say all those things, But we see the purpose. She is being careful, and now we know. I mean, so we can picture Joel in his heyday, in my view, right? He would have had all this stuff down. He'd have been very smart about everything, and we know that about him in his prime. He was definitely a force to be reckoned with, and we see that Ellie is on the verge of becoming a force to be reckoned with. At least in this scene right here, she's on the verge. I would say that moving forward with the episode, we see that she is a force to be reckoned with. But here we are seeing that she's moving that direction. And so I loved all of that. And I got the chuckle out of her trying to sound tough. She lowers her voice. And you know what? You can tell she's trying to sound tough. She still doesn't sound tough, though.
Yeah.
But I loved all of that.
Yeah, for me, I really liked that the two guys, David and James, were clearly thinking around the same thing when it came to the re-encounter. So there's the encounter with the deer where he tells James, like, I'm not trying to use code with you. Go get the medicine and bring it back. Come alone.
The code.
So I liked that it seemed to be he was trying to say we're going to deal honestly. But in the end, it was a dishonest deal because James comes back and he's got Ellie, in his sights, and he's aiming the pistol at her. And she ends up just getting the medicine, but no meat. So I really liked that. I like a smart enemy. And if they're not smart, then and our hero wins, it means nothing. It means that your enemy was weak, and that's why you won, because you were just not as weak as they are or as stupid. So this was a smart enemy. I liked it. And that's a scenario that I want to see play out well. And so that for me was the best setup of this whole thing.
So compare that with, what is the gal's name?
Kathleen.
Mm-hmm. All right, Kathleen she just did not give off dangerous vibes, regardless of what she did and what she said. She didn't come across as dangerous. This guy, even though he talks about faith and everything, yeah, you know he's dangerous, like you said, because he's smart, right? Now, this isn't code. So apparently they use code all the time, which means they're deceptive. And you have to watch out for them because you never know when they're saying something, what they really mean and what that's code for. So I did enjoy that.
Yeah, and I think it's maybe James is the one who's the clever one as far as ambushing, because James does it twice in this episode. This is the first time we see him do it. He leaves to go get the medicine, and then while Ellie and David are talking, James has snuck up behind her, and he does it again later. So I like the idea that it's not just the leader who's the smart one, it's him as well. It's, this James guy, he's a clever fighter.
Makes you wonder if he wasn't so busy following David, if he might not have been every bit as dangerous as Joel.
I think he would have been for sure. Yeah. Because especially when he is it in this scene? It might not be in this scene. I'll come back to it later. But there's a scene coming up where he says something that makes me think, yeah, that's a Joel move right there.
Ironic.
Yeah. Oh yeah, because he is Joel in the game.
But yeah, so David is the best villain in the game. I mean, he's smart and you hate him, right? You just hate him, but he's such a good villain, right? And I remember seeing a headline like Monday morning or whatever, and this was before I watched the episode, and it was like, they ruined the best villain in the game. I was like, I haven't seen the episode, but I doubt they did that. I feel like there's not a lot they could do to actually ruin his character, because he's already a very bad dude.
David is the best villain
so far,
that I've seen so far. Yeah.
Except for the crazy cordyceps.
How do you get a better villain than him? The actor nailed it. He's just creepy and smart and dangerous in all sorts of ways. So he nailed it. And the things that we're talking about, how Kathleen, right? She needs to be more deceptive. She needs to be able to show us how she leads the people. With David, we absolutely see that. We see how dangerous he is, how he manipulates people, and how the people follow him and they fear him. That's what we needed with Kathleen in some way. And if you want to do it as the soccer mom version of that, I think that could have been pulled off. But she, for whatever reason, that didn't happen in the episodes with her.
These followers, now at this point, we've only seen the congregation once, and that was the first scene. and they look beaten down. They look downtrodden. So you can afford to be not the overtly domineering leader because they're already weak. And that's something that we discussed in the Kathleen episode, was that this is not somebody who would be the leader of a bunch of badass guys with guns, like, which she was supposedly, that was what she was, supposedly a leader of a bunch of badasses who overthrew Fedra. So that didn't make any sense. But here it makes sense. This is a beaten down, psychologically beaten down group, and he can lead with a gentleness, a ferocious gentleness. So I like that. Mm-hmm. Yeah. All right. Next section. Oh, you have to.
Just also, I remember you saying you hope that Joel doesn't miraculously get better without medicine.
Yes.
So
I am so glad that they didn't do that.
Yes, they did bring medicine. And when they showed Joe's injuries on the screen, my dad had to cover his eyes.
Of course, Lucy would have to mention that.
Of course.
So that is my one ding on this episode. Is it's a little too gruesome for me.
I loved it.
Okay, and all you guys are gonna like Randy. You're so wimpy.
Romance movies in the last episode.
Yeah. Yes, I am. I don't do well with very gross scenes, or even things that aren't that gross. So thanks for pointing that out. Now everyone knows.
I had to.
I'm so ashamed now.
It got better quickly, though. The wound did. You only saw it looking bad, twice, 3 times, I guess, total, but twice with in this episode. So,
you know what makes this really bad is I am squirmish about gross scenes, and my brother and sister are both nurses at work in ER. And so when we get together for family stuff, they on purpose talk about all the really gross things that comes in through ER, and just because they know it makes me uneasy.
Yeah, whenever I got, so I'm very clumsy, so I get hurt all the time. Whenever I got hurt as a kid, I had to go to my mom and be like, Mom, because he doesn't like gross stuff.
I can't show Dad. Aw, I'm sure you would have swallowed it for.
Well,
I would.
There was a few times where he was home with me, so, but yeah.
We're good on this?
We are. We've exposed me plenty. Yeah. All right. So as much as this scene was, I'm squeamish, and I did not want to really see any blood and guts hanging out of the body and everything. It was a touching scene to watch Ellie care for Joel. I mean, so here again, we get a lot more show, don't tell. And it's the dad-daughter relationship. And so I really loved all of that. And then I was surprised about the link that these are the Raiders that originally injured Joel. And I'm like, oh, that's beautiful. Mm-hmm. You like to see that in a story. I mean, when I'm writing stories, I do try to do something and then link it to another event down the road. And people just enjoy that. It's like, these are the same guys. And of course, we're hearing 2 different stories. We're hearing that from the community, there was a crazy man on the loose who just murdered this guy for no reason. But we've all seen that, Joel was trying to escape. He was trying to get away, and they attacked him. So, very different. Of course, now we also know why they attacked him. They are starving to death, and they needed that horse. Because
the horse.
The horse.
This is also, actually, I forgot. This is another one of the scenes where they foregoed a action sequence. So in this scene, you get ambushed while you are playing Ellie, and you're with David in that house, and you get ambushed by infected. And so you have a really big fighting sequence, and you fight a bloater.
Are the 2 of them fighting together? Mm-hmm. That would have been awesome.
Kind of like a kind of bonding moment. He's like, hey, you're good at this. Like, you're good at fighting. And then, he turns out to be the person that he is. And you're like, I don't like you anymore, David.
I think I would have enjoyed seeing that, because it would enhance the reason why he knows that she is a survivor and she's got a violent heart and she's, vicious, which is what he does later on in the episode. And because I thought she didn't come across as being super violent at the beginning, and he says, I recognize that you are one of these. She didn't do anything that would tell him that. Yeah, she held a gun up to them, but she didn't shoot him. Yeah,
good point. Also, at this point, we're not sure about David. We suspect that because he gives off creepy vibes, but we don't know that he's a villain at this point.
I totally knew.
Whatever. Amber
I
did not.
knew.
She guessed. She did not know unless she read the description of the episode. She did not know. You can't know. You can only suspect.
It was very obvious to me and everyone in my family that watched with me. Like,
Amber
he was
knows
the
everything.
villain.
She knew. But I think most people are not sure. They are guessing that he's evil. And a scene where he fights with Ellie, that would confuse it more, which is good. It makes us wonder, right? It keeps us wondering until it's finally revealed for sure.
Yeah, I felt that it was obvious because of the content of his discussion with James earlier in the episode. And then in this, he's keeping her distracted and then tricking her. Like he's setting a trap for her. And this is not a thing that an honest person does. So that was why I think, especially this being this, I think it was the second or third instance where I saw him do something that was manipulative or that seemed like it was self-centered. And that, in addition to just knowing the kind of people he's leading, to me, it immediately was, this is a villain. But what you were saying earlier about, what the heck were you were mentioning something and it stuck in my head and I was like, oh, I should make a note about that.
You should.
Was it something I said or he said?
I think it was something that he said. Crap, I can't remember what it was. Okay, whatever. If I remember it, I'll mention it later. But yeah, anyway, so this bit with Ellie being manipulated in the end, I think was also a good example of showing that she's not as capable as she wants to be and she's trying to be. And I've always thought that it would be a good idea to show Ellie as being somebody who is naive. And she doesn't behave like someone who is naive, but she is. She does not know how the world works. And so this was a great moment for her. And also in the basement when she's trying to help Joel, I don't know what to do. Where do I stick this injection? And so this to me is a very realistic situation. This is realistic dialogue. This is a realistic thought process that we're seeing from this teenage girl. I really, really liked Ellie in this part. Back in Silver Lake, a man brings a bin of fresh cuts of meat into the kitchen, telling the cooks that it is venison. David, having returned with the deer, tells everyone it is true they found the girl who was with the man who killed Alec. Tomorrow they will follow the trail of the girl and bring the man to justice. Alec's daughter, the girl who was crying earlier, angrily calls out for the man and the girl to both be killed. David slaps her, then comfortingly tells her that she has not lost her father as she believes she has, and that she should respect when he is talking. He then leads everyone in a blessing, and they silently eat.
Well, we get this delicious homemade meal made with venison. So hearty, so delicious, so trustworthy.
Do I detect sarcasm?
Never.
Where did you learn sarcasm?
Don't know. Gotta be from Grandma.
Yeah. Sorry, inside joke, family joke.
Grandma doesn't do sarcasm.
She doesn't know sarcasm. I really like this scene. Person comes in. Is it James? Who comes in? Someone comes in with a bowl of meat, and some of the people
A
are like,
random person.
A random person. But James looks at it, and you can tell he's hesitant. It's not James? Who is it then?
It was just one of the cooks.
One of the cooks looks at it.
James shows up in the next sequence.
So James does the same thing in the next scene, but they look at the meat, and then you can tell that they're wary. They are afraid of that meat.
Where'd this come from?
It's the venison that we just brought in, which is what I thought because they just returned with the deer. That's what I thought. And then, they do go out, right? And then James kind of has the same reaction. Yeah, what is this? And so automatically we're going to be thinking like, oh, well, if it's not venison, then what other meat source might they have?
Oh no, Father!
No.
We can't possibly bury him until spring.
Oh, that's
where shall we store
right.
his body?
We'll just store his body and bury him in spring, or eat him. I mean, one of the two, but definitely not eat him. Definitely not eat him. We'll bury him in the spring. And then
definitely still have a funeral.
And then we'll have a funeral.
Hopefully you will surely not have forgotten by then.
A closed casket so no one can see that there's not a body there. So don't worry, we'll take care of it.
I wonder what the logic was.
So
like,
gross.
How are we going to tell people about the mutilation of his body at the end of this? I wonder if they had a plan.
I want to say goodbye to Dad. You can't.
Sorry.
It's unsightly. Decay, you know?
Gives a new meaning to the last meal, right? So.
Oh, gross.
Yeah, that was gross. Hey, I'm not the cannibal, all right? I just made jokes about him.
So my brother, when we had the earlier scene with the James and David talking, and he said, why did he say venison, deer, and rabbit when venison is deer? And I knew that there were cannibals because you said that there were going to be cannibals, but he picked up on that and was going, what the heck's wrong with that? So I'm wondering if maybe they were a little bit obvious that it was something else.
That was code.
Well, no, I knew that, but my brother didn't, and he thought it sounded like, why is they say...
She knows everything.
No, he knew that something was off with that. He's like, why would they say venison and deer and rabbit? So I would say the writers could have been maybe just a smidge more subtle with this. Anybody who knows anything about hunting knows that deer is called venison. So if you're going to say we have venison, deer, and rabbit, it'd be like, you mean you have deer and rabbit, right? That's what you've got. But
we've got a multitude of options.
Yeah. Anyway, so there was that. But this scene with the daughter getting slapped and then him coming and picking her up, I really, really like that because the people in this room clearly do have a fear of David. But I wouldn't know if it's a fear of David so much as him calling out their immorality, because she calls for vengeance. She calls for kill both of them, even though there's only one man who is guilty. And he's saying, we will have justice. We will bring this stranger to justice. And that is the kind of psychological manipulation that I think would work on a group like this, is if you're going to test their morality. So the girl says, kill them both. I think we should kill both of them. She just wants vengeance. She just wants them dead. And he slaps her. And that could have been a slap for what you have just said is unchristian. It is unchristian to suddenly want to kill somebody who is not guilty of a crime. So they'll kill Joel. That may be justice, but to want to kill the girl as well, like that's just anger lashing out. So I like that there was a manipulation of people's idea of what is moral and what is not. And that was exactly the perfect kind of reaction. Because you're manipulating also their sense of justice as well. Because in real Christian faith, you would not kill either of them. You would forgive and move on. But in this scenario, he's keeping them under control by punishing them for their immoral thoughts or their immoral declarations in that case. So I like that a lot. Thought it was excellent use. Psychological manipulation is the best. The next day, Joel's wound is oozing less, but he is still not waking up, so Ellie administers a second injection. After giving the horse some snow to eat, Ellie discovers that David, James, and 4 other men are approaching. David tells the men to take the girl alive. James questions if maybe it's God's will that Ellie be let go, even if only to die. David silently rebukes this. Ellie cannot fully wake Joel. She hands him a knife and tells him to kill any man who comes across him. Then she moves a hutch to hide the door to the basement, mounts the horse, and rides away from the house. After circling behind them, she taunts the men and fires her pistol towards them, then gallops off, leading them away. All the men chase her, except for James, who cuts through a neighborhood to get ahead of her and shoots the horse. Ellie is knocked senseless in the fall. The men who find her are about to kill her, but David stops them. He carries Ellie away with 2 other men, dragging the dead horse, while the others can stay and search for Joel.
I enjoyed it. We see Ellie taking care of Joel again, and then she gives him the knife, says, "Do not fall asleep." And that so reminded me of a scene previously in the series where Joel is does he tell Ellie or does he tell someone else? But basically, Joel's had these kinds of conversations with Ellie in the past, instructing her, this is serious. You know, here's a weapon.
You will not get shot.
Yeah.
This will not hit you.
So in a lot of ways, this is a reversal. And I super enjoyed that, right? And yeah, I'm going like, yeah, you bad guys better hope Joel does not wake up fully. I mean, it's going to be bad for you
I
if that
started
happens.
giggling in this scene because I knew it was coming up.
All right, and then Ellie, she talks with David, and I love one of the things he said, which he said, you can't survive on your own. No one can, right?
That's
And
in
it-
the next scene.
Is it?
Yeah, because he talks to her
Maybe
when
he
she's in
said
the
it
cage.
twice. I feel like he said it in the cage and in the house.
Oh, okay, so the last scene. Okay. I don't remember that part, but okay. Anyway,
I don't
go ahead.
No, I'm done.
You're in? Okay. How about you?
Not a whole lot. Like I said, I was just really giggling. I'm looking forward to the next part. Which
Nice.
I know is really sadistic of me. Don't worry about it.
I thought this was a great part. I like that she had this, what I consider a smart idea is I'm going to get out of here as fast as I can. I like she moved the hutch in front of the door to kind of hide that it was there. That was smart thinking. And then I thought that she was going to go out and run off and they would follow her. But for some reason, it seems like she goes out, circles to behind them, and then says, hey, you know, whatever, you guys, basically she's like saying, I'm over here, come and get me, except she's not saying that. And she takes off, but for some reason, she's not going like in a progressively far away direction. She's like circling around or something because James cuts through the neighborhoods. He, instead of following everybody, following her, he's like, I'm going to go this way, and catches her like he's gotten ahead of her somehow. So that means, this is what I'm envisioning. Here's the guys, and they're walking this way. She comes out behind them and says, hey, you guys. And they turn around, and she runs off like this. So I'm confused about why did she turn back this way, which allows James to get ahead of her and shoot her. So anyway, I'm not sure what their whole deal was with how this works, but I'm not sure why she would just circle around them. So to me, it felt like a little bit like, oh, convenient to have James go and anticipate that she's going to circle back. I don't know why he would think that would happen, but he did, and it worked, and there's that. So if I was going to say maybe do something different with this scene, I would have just made James a better shot. Even though I like that this is like the second time that we've seen James sneak up from behind, I still would have thought that's an odd thing for Ellie to do. Why would she run away from them, but then like circle back towards them? It doesn't make any sense. So there was that. The three remaining men go door to door looking for Joel. One moves the hutch and goes down into the basement, where Joel ambushes him from behind, a knife into the neck. Ellie wakes up in a cage. David tells her that the others wanted to kill her, but he stopped them. Ellie rejects his implied offer of protection, deserving of trust, and says that she is not alone. David points out that her friend is nowhere to be seen and offers to protect her in a new life. He tells her if she cannot find a way to trust him, then she will be alone.
Some more emotional manipulation.
Playing on her fear of being alone.
Which is her biggest fear, as she told Sam.
Yes.
So,
good job bringing that back and like keeping that on the forefront. So one thing that is really good to see in character development is giving them a flaw or something that they think that they need, but then realizing along the journey that this is not something that they need, it's something that they want, and then there's something else that they actually do need. And in this case, her fear of being alone is based solely on an emotional need, because we're seeing that she is becoming more and more capable. And so this is what I like to see in a character, is that they are making this progression that is directly relevant to what their main flaw is, or what their main goal or desire or fear or whatever is. In some way, it is directly related to this. This whole journey of hers is to get back to Joel in this episode. So I thought it was really good focus on exactly what you were talking about. How about you?
Yeah.
All right, that bit. One of the two remaining men searching the houses for Joel finds the other man barely conscious and is then knocked out from behind by Joel. Later, Joel has tied up both men and tortures and interrogates one, asking where they are and where Ellie is. Using a dagger in his mouth, the man points on a map to where they are. then Joel stabs the first man, and after telling the second man that he believed the first man was telling the truth, kills the second man as well.
I love this bit. Because it shows, like, throughout this show and throughout the game, we see just how far he is willing to go for Ellie, and she's just cargo, but he cares so much, and he will do so much to protect her and to keep her safe. And so he is, I'm sure, was barely conscious, barely remembering that Ellie was like, "There's guys outside." So he wakes up, he remembers, something's going on. She's not back yet. That's wrong. So he immediately goes into scary mode.
Yes.
And I really shouldn't love this scene, but I really do.
No, it's great. It is a great scene. I mean, seeing Joel being a badass is what we've been waiting for, to really see him doing stuff.
And this is like the first time in the entire show where we get to see it, other than the time he beat the federal officer to death as they were leaving the first QZ. But that's really the only time we really got to see him do anything.
It is. And that was a big complaint, I think, from a lot of people. Like, why is Joel not being the badass that we know he is? I mean, when you're playing him as a character in the game, you get to be him beating up all these, this infected, and then I'm assuming, the bad people and stuff like that. But we didn't see any of that because it doesn't happen in the show. And this is like, I feel like that first scene that we had with the guard, I mean, he took the guy completely by surprise. And although he does that in this case too, it's like a quick beat him up, kill him, and then run. This was like, I'm willing to torture you.
I'm willing to do this as long as it takes.
And then promise you freedom, but then take it away from you. I love that. It was very, very vicious, and yeah. Yeah,
and then even on, like, later on in the episode, they forego another big fight sequence with him. So they have done that many times in this show. He's the main character, so you're fighting people all the time. But they have foregone so many of, like, really big fight scenes where they really should have had him doing stuff. And I get he's 56 years old. He's not really in the prime of his life, right? So he's not able to do everything in the game, because in the game, it's fiction. In real life, you can't. 56-year-olds are not that likely to kill off almost 1,000 people in one game. Like, that's not realistic. I get that. But having a few fight scenes, I would like.
And I think they should have done that, because he would have been perfectly healthy and been really able to showcase how good of a fighter and how tough he was. And in this case, he's injured. I mean, I was honestly surprised that he was up and doing stuff, but I felt like the way that he killed these guys was pretty believable. He got the jump on them, so they didn't see him coming, and stabbed them in the neck. The first guy got stabbed in the neck. Second guy, he beats him right in the face, unconscious. I think we can assume that that's what happened to the other guy, the third guy who's just laying there. It's still like a limited badassery, but the torture scene, I think, shows his mentality a lot, and a tough mentality that he's literally willing to do anything, including torture somebody and promise, "I'll let you go if you just tell me this," and then is like, "Yeah, I didn't mean that, and I'm killing you, and now you're useless to me, you're dead." Like that is a very deadly, vicious sort of an attitude. So I like that. And yeah, I would have liked to have seen him be badass when he was fully healthy. Maybe an instance where he doesn't get the drop on somebody, he doesn't, jump them.
One of the final scenes in the game, which is going to be next episode, is another big fight sequence. And I really, really hope they keep that in there, because that is very pivotal. Because I'm not going to say anything to spoil the ending.
Okay.
But it's such a big, that's probably the biggest fight scene. If they cut that out, that's going to be a huge loss on their part.
Okay. So I hope you've heard that, writers. If you have the chance to fix the last episode, if it doesn't have that fight scene, you better put it in there.
Yeah, it's a huge fight.
Just call it pedropascal. And like, hey, come back over here. We need to get some B-roll. We need some B-roll of you, like, totally kicking ass. But, yeah. Are we good?
Yeah.
Yeah? All right. As Ellie tries to escape, she notices something under the butcher block table that horrifies her. Just then, David comes in to bring her food and sees what she saw, a human ear. Ellie is disgusted and kicks the food away. David says he had no choice, as they were starving, and says that Joel killed a man to save Ellie, so there is no difference. David says he believes that he and Ellie are alike, that he had a violent heart and struggled with it for a long time until cordyceps showed him that you protect your children with violence if you must, and that this is a form of love. He says that he and Ellie are alike. They are both leaders. He wants her to join him, and he will tell the others to let Joel go. As he promises they would make great leaders together, Ellie pretends to be tempted by this, taking his hand. Then she breaks his fingers and tries to grab the cage keys off of him. David yanks her arm through the cage bars, bashing her face into them. She tells him her name, and David leaves, implying that he will have her cut up into little pieces. This is an interesting scene.
He's so creepy. He's very good at being creepy.
Yeah, very, very creepy. What did you guys think about the whole about him trying to like, you're just like me, but
So this is where we know for sure that there's cannibals, and I'm like, oh, ick, cannibals, right? I mean, which is good for the episode.
Yeah.
Lucy's been looking forward to the cannibal episode.
It's my favorite
for
part of the
cannibals,
game.
long
yeah.
time, and it makes the whole episode super creepy.
Mm-hmm.
My thought process while I'm watching this is David says, he tells Ellie, I can tell my friends to stop looking for him. And I'm like, too late, because now he's looking for you. So
Nice, yeah.
I thought that was hilarious.
Mm-hmm. Not a whole lot for me to say. Just he's really good at being creepy and overall a huge jerkwad. And then it's finally actually revealed that cannibalism. Woohoo!
Yeah.
In the game, though, instead of
They didn't do a good job.
That's bad. I did not teach her to woohoo cannibalism. That's something
She's
she learned
woohooing for
on
good
her
storytelling. When you're woohooing to the bad stuff like that, or like when I cheered when Sam and Henry died, you're cheering for good storytelling or interesting storytelling. I get it. I did. I'm there with you.
But in the game, instead of just an ear, it's a whole body on the chopping block. So,
Gosh.
slight difference there.
Does nobody else in the whole town go in this room? Because the first thing I thought was like, you left an ear. Like, aren't you trying to hide this from everybody?
I'm not sure. In the game, other than the obvious, like, I'm gonna kill you, you're gonna regret that, like, NPC lines, you get, like, 2 lines from James, and then David is the only other person that talks in this town.
Oh, okay, gotcha.
So you don't really hear or see anything about them.
Okay, gotcha. They're background. They're stage parsley.
Mm-hmm.
Okay, yeah. Okay, so this is something that they do with villains a lot, and it's like the whole, the Incredibles talked about this. It was one of my favorite things in the Incredibles is when they're discussing like how they beat some bad guy, and he's like, and the guy started monologuing on me. He just went on and on about how like we're so alike, you and me, and that was how they got him. Like, this is the way that you get the bad guy. So I was chuckling a little bit at that. I was also chuckling at the you and I are the same, because this is something that all villains end up saying in stories. I would have maybe liked a little bit more subtlety in this, because it is a bit of mirroring. So basically what he's saying is, I know he was saying like, oh, the cordyceps taught me, that having a violent heart is love. And I'm going, this is much better comparison to somebody like Joel. Like, David is Joel in this. Like, he's saying you and I together would be great partners, and he can protect her. And I'm thinking he's showing that violence, or saying that he sees violence as being a means of expressing love. It is a way to protect your loved ones, the way that cordyceps does. And that was the most interesting part to me, is that they related it to the cordyceps. Even though at first when I heard it, because I've watched this episode 3 times now, I went, that's kind of a weird thing to say. But the more I thought about it, the more it made sense to me that, okay, yeah, he is portraying himself as being a violent protector who is willing to kill to protect who he loves, which is exactly what Joel is. So there's the relationship. But I didn't like the whole you and I are alike. And I didn't like the whole carrying on and then Ellie using this against him. Like him being a pedophile also was a bit of a cliche, but I just felt like there were some changes that could have been made to this particular scene that would have been so much more satisfying. And I think one of them would be to take out some of the things that we've seen done a bunch of times before and do it, just take those out and do it from his cordyceps, like the cordyceps kind of teaching, telling her that, look, I have learned how many, creatures in nature do we see having to protect their young. And that's what I'm doing. I'm willing to kill to protect my flock. That to me is a more believable psychological argument to present. And I don't think people would follow somebody who presents this sort of argument to people about, I had a violent heart and I didn't understand that. I think that he should have had tried to be a little bit more manipulative, which is what I think he must have done before. So anyway, that's pretty much all I had on this bit. And I'm surprised Ellie tried to grab his keys so suddenly and didn't bide her time a little bit more. But anyway, she went for it. So trying to escape is good.
She might have also been panicking a little bit.
Yeah, I could see that. I mean, I would certainly be wondering, okay, I hope he comes back. But he wanted her on his side so bad, I think if she's really smart, maybe be a bit more subtle with the I'm coming over, wait until he's let you out of the cage and then grab the keys. But anyway, she went for it, and that's the sort of thing I expect a stupid teenager to do, so good job there. Joel has come to Silver Lake unnoticed. In the garage serving as the town meat locker, he finds Ellie's backpack, along with the dead horse, the deer, and 3 human bodies strung up for harvesting meat.
Really, I also don't have very many notes, but just one note that I had was he finds Ellie's backpack, and throughout all of the manic trying to find her and everything, he still makes sure to grab her backpack because her backpack has everything that she everything from her previous life, and I think I heard somewhere that she has a picture from her mom in it, or a letter from her mom in it.
Okay.
So this has everything that she owns. This is everything that she owns, and he made sure to grab that and make sure she got it back.
Gotcha. Okay.
So I just like that little thing.
I wonder why she brought her backpack with her when she was going to try and lead everybody away. Maybe she didn't know if she was coming back the same day, I guess, but okay. I noticed on the second viewing that 2 of the bodies that are strung up are women's bodies. And I thought that was interesting because we know that the third guy died while he was, trying to get to Joel. Or at least I think it's implied that is the guy, that's Alec's body. That's because he said earlier, oh, we'll bury him in the spring, implying that he has the body somewhere. So I'm thinking that's Alec. And the other 2 are women. There weren't a whole lot of girls or ladies in his congregation. And I think it asks the question, who were these women? Were they other strays that they picked up, or were they people who died within their congregation? They seem very, very beat down, so I would assume that they are people who died in their congregation. I liked that. I liked that it was women who were left wondering what they were, how they died. We know that the one guy got killed by Joel, but if they were going to take out other people, it would be this is what weak people could do, is they could kill 2 women. So I like that. David and James grab Ellie and drag her to the butcher block. She bites David in the struggle. Just as he's about to butcher her, Ellie says she's infected and that David is now infected too. David sticks the butcher knife while James holds her down and checks her arm. David doesn't believe it's real, but as James does, Ellie grabs the butcher knife, chops down on James's neck, and breaks away. All the doors are locked, so Ellie grabs a piece of burning wood from the fire and hurls it at David as he comes into the room. The curtains catch fire, and it is spreading fast as Ellie hides and David seeks. She finds a knife as David declares he doesn't believe that she's infected, that no one likes to be humiliated, and that he's decided that she really does need a father. Ellie jumps at him and manages to stab him before he throws her to the ground. He climbs atop her, gleefully declares that there is no fear in love, and as he is about to violate her, she grabs the knife within reach, slashes at his face, leaps atop him, and stabs him repeatedly until he is certainly dead. Big finale fight. What do we think?
It's good. So we see Ellie finally bloom into her full violent self. And it's interesting that the three main characters for this is Joel, who's very violent, David, who's very violent, and Ellie, who's now just as violent as either of the other two. So we are cheering for her because she's been wronged, and we do want to see her get vengeance, and she does. I mean, so she kills James very effectively.
Bye-bye, James.
Bye, James.
Even though I smiled every time you're on screen because I like you, Troy.
So esoterically, that seems odd that Jolie kills Game Joel, right? That just seems kind of sad.
I mean, he gets killed in the game, too.
And inappropriate. Don't have Ellie kill Game Joel. Have someone else kill Game Joel.
I don't know who else. Who else is going to kill him?
Maybe
Joel?
they felt like she would be the only one who has the right to do it. You know, I don't know.
Joel's the only other person who would actually be able to kill him.
All right. So
yeah.
So that's fair. So I've talked about the three main ones, and I can see why you don't bring Joel into this. We need to see Ellie complete her journey, that she can take care of herself without Joel, and we do here. So she kills off James, and then her and David have this prolonged fight scene, but it shows how both are very crafty, cunning fighters. And this is why they're still alive. Ellie's going to continue to survive just like Joel has survived, because Joel has been cunning and vicious and really pays attention to details and stuff. So that's what Ellie does. She outmaneuvers David. And then it was just beautiful that she finishes him off, and we cheer and we're happy because David was a disgusting pig and evil, and of all the people I've seen in the show so far, he deserved to die the most.
He's the best villain.
He's the best villain.
This is what I mean.
Yeah. So it was great. We have an epic fight to wrap up this storyline.
So in my opinion, and I know some people also think this, but this is the scariest human fight scene in the game. So I talked previously about the scariest infected fight scene, which didn't actually end up in the show, unfortunately. But this is the scariest human fight scene. So you are playing as Ellie, right? And she, at this point, I think she does have a knife.
Yeah, when they get in the dining hall, she finds it in the kitchen area.
She has her pocket knife in the game.
Oh, okay.
So
they didn't disarm her.
She didn't have it in the cage. I think she picked it up off of a wood block or something. I don't remember. But she has her pocket knife, but she is, obviously it's still very scary in the show, but you are playing and walking around and you're trying to stealth and try and kill David, right? So you're walking around and there's this thing called listen mode, which is basically you're able to do kind of basically echolocation in order to hear your surroundings and stuff.
Okay.
So for the first half of this fight scene, David is walking around normally, making normal noise, and so it's pretty easy to sneak up behind him once and stab him in the side. And then after that, I think after you do that 2 times, he goes silent. And that is terrifying because then he goes into stealth mode. So he is silent and he is crouched, so you can't even stand up and try and spot him.
Because then he'll know where you are. Yeah.
So it is so scary. It's terrifying. And then obviously you kill him and all's well.
I forget which filmmaker it was that said it, and then I know Shyamalan has said it afterwards, and it's so true. And that is that confronting a bad guy in the house is not nearly as scary as knowing that there's a bad guy in the house somewhere and you have no idea where. And that, I like that a lot. That would play
so scary
into it a lot. I kind of wish that maybe David came out and didn't talk and we could experience that as the audience. she managed to get out and throw the fire thing at him, the log that's on fire at him, but then manages to hide, and then you see that David is creeping around. I think you wouldn't have to have all this bit of him going, you can't escape, and all the doors are locked. I mean, I've changed my mind, I'll still save you. That wasn't necessary. You didn't need that. I think I would have preferred if it was him silently going after her, and then we're just holding our breath with Ellie, hoping that she manages to see him before he sees her. So if I was going to rewrite that scene, I would definitely comparing the game to this, I would say, no, we should do what the game did, because that's really effective thrill. So, yeah. We got anything else? I've got one more note on this scene, I think. Oh, okay. My other last final note on this scene was, I thought it was really stupid that he decided he was going to rape her. I'm sorry, the building is burning all around you, and you know what? I'm going to stop and rape her. I think he would just knock her out, get her out of the building, and then he can have his way with her somewhere else at some other time or whatever. But this to me was just sheer stupidity. I felt like they wanted to put a rape in there for the sake of putting a rape in there. And that's not good storytelling. It was not the appropriate time for this person. Even if they wanted to, no, he's a pedophile. And, rape is violence. It is a violent sexual act. So I don't like that this scene happened here. I would have preferred that he, his intention is to knock her out. And we just know that he's a pedophile at this point. We know that, of course, he's going to try and violate her later on. But that scene to me, I was like, are you serious? You're going to let the building collapse on fire on top of you so that you can rape her? It just seemed really stupid to me. So that would be the one thing I would tell him, cut that out and then do what they did in the game. So there was that. Joel finds Ellie just as she has come outside. He grabs her and assures her that she is safe. When she realizes this is true, she embraces him. Then he wraps her in his jacket and they leave Silver Lake.
I really enjoyed Joel and Ellie reunion. That was great. Perfect way to end the episode. It felt great. We want them together. We're happy to see them together.
Yeah. Also, he called her baby girl, which is what he used to call Sarah.
I loved that.
And that's really sad, but it's also really cute. So
that part of the journey is complete. He's fully accepted her as his new daughter. So that's
just
nice.
In time for the finale.
That's when you would want it to happen, though. Not, you wouldn't have wanted to happen too soon and not too late. So that was great. Baby girl right at the very end. Yeah, perfect.
Actually, the baby girl was an improvised line by Troy Baker. So
really?
Calling her baby girl was improvised.
Nice. I want to go back and watch the first episode again and see if he calls Sarah baby girl at any point. I don't remember if he does.
I believe.
Was it when he was picking her up and saying, just keep your eyes on me, baby girl, or something like that? I don't know. Whenever that was.
I know he does, at least in the game. I'm pretty sure he does in the show as well. But
okay. Yeah, but I loved that. I thought it was fantastic.
Yeah. Really cute. And he made sure she got her bag back, and he doesn't have to understand everything. He's just like, all right, well, you're safe now. Let's get you out of here. So,
yeah. Summary bit is over. Any final notes on this episode?
I do not.
Really psyched for the next episode.
Yeah, I'm pretty excited about the last episode as well. I'm hoping that they have a nice long one, and I am curious to see how the heck they're going to make a finale out of it. It must be a simple thing that happens, and I know that sounds like, you can't say that the ending is going to be simple, but I hope that it's not too much that they try to cram into one episode. I want it to feel like it has a natural flow. So that's my one big hope for that. My one general note for this whole entire episode here was that I did feel like a lot of it was kind of things that we've seen before. We've seen this sort of scenario happen before. We've seen the corrupt preacher leader before. We've seen the corrupt preacher leader who is a pedophile before. We've seen the monologuing before. We've seen the I'm going to pretend I'm your friend and then try to escape thing before. But they still work as vehicles of entertainment, as things that you can do that keep the audience interested because they've been tried and tested and they're good. And if they're well performed, they can still be very entertaining. So I came away from it the first time going, I was like, I felt like I was watching Cliffhanger for some reason. You know that movie with Sylvester Stallone? I don't know why. I kind of had the same feeling. Maybe it was the wintry snow bit, and then there was all the blood, and like, you know, I got that feeling, but it was entertaining for sure. Entertaining all the way through.
Yeah.
We good? Ratings?
I am going to give this episode a 9.5. I'm not giving it a 10 because it was too gross for me. But it was definitely, in my mind, the strongest episode of the series so far.
Yeah.
I'm also giving it a 9.5.
Not a 10?
Not a 10, just because I still prefer the game. There's still some stuff that I like better in the game. My baby.
Now, I liked what you said about the stuff in the game that wasn't in this show or this episode. I'm giving it I'm giving it a 9, which is the same rating I gave episode 1. I had more problems, I think, with episode 1, and I felt like this one was a bit more traditional storytelling. It was a little bit more predictable, but it was still so well done that I felt thoroughly entertained. So, same rating as episode 1, but excited about the next episode. Do we have any predictions?
That is going to be the last episode of this season.
How do you think it's going to end?
We've got our 4 theories.
That they finally reach the Firefly compound that they're looking for.
Okay.
Yeah. I hope they do. If they don't, why were we going there? I think our 4 predictions are, there's the Adam and Eve one, that at some point Ellie, that we find a partner for Ellie, a young man. You know, we know that she's a lesbian, but that would still be a big like hope for the future, is that there are others just like her and they can have kids. Then there was Joel dies, and then there was Joel and Ellie live together happily ever after. And what was the 4th one?
They find fireflies, but Joel doesn't let them do anything.
That was it. So those are our 4. Can we fit any others? We have a new prediction. Ellie dies? That could be another one. Ellie dies. Okay. I mean, I guess that's everything that could happen, but I'm still thinking these are the ones that make the most sense. I think they're probably not going to do the Adam and Eve one, but they might. All right. We good?
Yep.
All right. Till next time.
Bye.
Later.